This week, I was able to sport really cool new gear on the program. I've got a killer hat and an awesome shirt, Jesus, my real hero, oh yeah, from my friend Lindsey Graham, the Patriot Barbie. You have to check out her website, shoppatriotbarbie.com. At checkout, put in code word Tina to save on your entire order. Let me tell you something, I want every single t-shirt she has on her website. We have phrases like, make America godly again, unborn lives matter, Jesus is king. Get those sweet conversations started out there in public as you're sporting one of her shirts. ShopPatriotBarbie.com, 10% off your order using code word Tina at checkout. Lindsay, thank you so much for the goods, girl. Raising kids today is more challenging than it's ever been. Technology, social media, and the ever-shifting standards of what is right and wrong can make parenting in this modern-day culture difficult to navigate. Steve Hines believes most parents want to parent well. Parenting well requires a heightened sense of discernment and wisdom to clearly see how society is affecting our kids and to make godly parenting decisions, despite the loud voice of the culture. It requires a willingness to teach and lead our children by personal example and not just by words. Steve's book, Salt, Light, and Kids, is a how-to manual that encourages parents to stay fully engaged in the parenting journey, all the way from the early years to adulthood. Steve guides parents in training up their children to become the salt of the earth and the light of the world, and to clearly hear God's voice throughout their journey. As a mom of 4 kids, 15 down to 10, I could not recommend this book enough. This is the Counterculture Mom Show. I'm Tina Griffin. If you haven't seen part 1 of this parenting discipline series, please listen to that first and then come back to this episode because it sets the foundation for what we are about to discuss more in detail today. We are talking about the tough topic of parenting and discipline this week with author Steve Hines. Steve, welcome back to the program. How are you doing? You're like 3 miles down the road. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, Tina. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. You have my mind reeling with our first half of this doubleheader series with you. So many great critical questions, so timely for this parenting journey. Many of us are struggling, wanting to come up for air, and we need help. And the thing I just want to tell everybody out there is your book dissects it perfectly. It's not 14 inches thick. It's an easy read with critical topics, how-to manual of parenting today. Our parents did not have to deal with the issues that we are currently facing. So what you have to say today is absolutely critical. First of all, you know how to parent well. You've been married to your sweetheart, Leanne, for 36 years. You have 2 kids, 2 granddaughters, and a grandson on the way. So obviously, solid foundation. Not that you figured it out and you're perfect. You explained that in part 1. We're going to talk more about that in part 2. But you know what you're talking about. So that means a ton right there. In your opinion, Steve, what are the absolute keys that parents need to focus on in today's culture in order to maximize their chances for success in parenting?
Great question. I would say one, awareness, which we've talked a little bit about before. You can't have your head in the sand as a parent. You got to know what's going on in the different things your kids and grandkids are facing. 2 would be effort. I think that a lot of parenting mistakes can be justified if we can say we as parents are giving 100% effort. It's not another thing we do. It's the most important thing we do. I would say example, because there's a lot of parents who fall into the same traps that they don't want their kids to, being on social media too much, or, starting to drink wine at 3 p.m, waiting on the kids to come home, or maybe dad's watching stuff on Netflix that they shouldn't, and then expect their kids to behave differently. We can't do that. Our example is so important. And then 4, I would say, Tina, would be communication. We've got to start communicating with our kids at younger and younger ages. My kids who are 32 and about to turn 30, I had the talk with my son, the talk, when he was probably 13, which may have been even a little late. But now you better be, if you're a parent, having important conversations with your kids when they're 7, 8, 9, 10, because they're finding out stuff way earlier than we did when we were kids.
And I completely agree. That's what makes our job so tough, because me as a parent with the kids that went through the 7, 8, 9-year-old phase already, I always was wrestling with, is this too much content that I'm sharing with my kids right now? Is it not enough? And here I am exposing satanic symbolism in pop culture, traveling the globe with that, with my kids in the audience, traveling with me and seeing it. So, and I'm cautious of what do they see, what do they hear at this younger age. But at the same time, I want my kids to not live in a bubble. I think it's critical. So I totally hear you. In fact, people are asking me now to speak to kindergarten students and first grade when it used to be sixth grade on up. So we know that the problems are there. Here's my quick question. You have parents that are out there today thinking, how can we start the conversation with our 6, 7, and 8-year-old kids that is really detailed, like pornography on the internet or premarital sex? I mean, what topics should we talk about to our younger kids, and how do we even start that conversation? Bullying, suicide. We need to talk about it. How would you suggest parents start at that young of age with their kids?
I think, Tina, that it depends on the topic and it depends on the child. So I think bullying's an easier conversation than sex for a 8-year-old or 6-year-old or somebody that young. But once again, you have to defer to the Holy Spirit's guidance and ask them to let you know and to provide the opportunities when you need to be having these conversations. But you always need to be on the lookout and then be obedient for that prompting, because it's better to be aggressive in that area than to be conservative and to kind of sit back. And that's difficult. I know it is for parents to talk to an 8-year-old about sex, but somebody's going to be talking to them about it. And so it'd be better if it be you.
I was just going to say the same thing. You know what? It's so wild. I asked the question. I'm like, perfect what you're talking about, because parents, if we were diligent, and many of us are trying to dig in deep and figure out what our kids are currently involved with, what are they watching? For example, video games. Video games today, very graphic sex scenes, yes, in the video games that young kids, 6, 7, and 8-year-old kids are playing. And many of them might not be even aware of what they're doing because that topic hasn't been brought up yet in their schools, for sure in their Christian curriculum, it hasn't been. But in video games, for example, and our movies, kids are being subjected to and even able to use the remotes and simulate sexual scenes. Even rape scenes are happening in 3D type video games today, where young kids are being pounded with that content. And parents are thinking, how am I going to talk to my kids about sex? They're already, a lot of them, doing these scenes in their video games, for example. So just know that you might not be talking about this topic for the first time because they're already talking about it with their friends. There's chat features in these video games, movies that kids are talking about in schools, social media, TikTok, all of it. Very good chance that your kids have already been subjected to talking about, have seen, partaken in sharing the content you're afraid to talk about to them about. You're so dead on that. For example, we have a lot of video games like even Minecraft. There's a lot of video gamers on YouTube pumping out Minecraft remake type scenes that I talk about on Counterculture Mom. Just put in Minecraft, search it in the bar on our website, counterculturemom.com. You'll come up with all the blogs that our team has pumped out about the fact that even Minecraft video game players on YouTube have sex scenes in these video game channels that they're doing. They're corrupting the original version. Kids are just searching on YouTube for Minecraft and they're seeing this pornography and sex. It's absolutely crazy, even on video games. Anyway, I don't want to get in the ditch. The point is, you're correct. We have to talk about it at a young age with when our kids are at a very young age. What are some topics you cover in your book?
I talk about a wide range of things like leading a simple life, which I think we've lost because we require so much from a sensory perspective, adults and kids, but simplifying life, being responsible. I do talk about discipline. I talk about money. I talk about the narcissism of today's society because our kids are being told they're great at everything and they don't, if something goes wrong, then it's somebody else's fault. So that goes right into the pride that is the downfall in every sin. And I'll talk about the hierarchy of relationships, how important it is for the mom and dad relationship, if it's a 2-parent family, to be more important than the parent and child relationship. And in the long term, the kids will really benefit from that. And then, of course, God being at the top of the hierarchy in terms of important relationships. So a lot talk about boyfriends and girlfriends and friends, which are huge topics. Friends have more influence once they're 10 or 12 or 14 than parents do. So you better make sure you know who their friends are, who their boyfriends and girlfriends are, and you'll be glad that you did.
I love the how-to guide. I don't know how our parents kept us alive over the years with still just a lot of these topics you talk about, but you talk about it in today's terms. But let's go back 30 years. I'm surprised my parents knew what they were doing back then with no guide. I mean, my dad grew up in a home with his parents, I know, not even addressing a lot of these topics. And he just passed away 3 years ago, did such a phenomenal job with us kids with what he was given as a kid. It seems like more pressure each generation, and yet we have to navigate and figure it out. By the time we figure it out, the kids are out of the home. So praise the Lord that you gave us the book now to help us, because many previous generations did not have the helpful tips that you are now offering our parents. Just phenomenal. We come back more with Steve on phenomenal parenting tips that we desperately need to apply today in our homes here in America.
Here are 7 signs you may have a parasite. My biggest issue, because I did have parasites, was teeth grinding, skin irritation, and unexplained digestive issues. The other indication that you could have a parasite is eating after 7 p.m. and craving sugar. My name is Kim. I'm the worm queen and the inventor of the Parafy Kit. Let's go over it. Parafy, it's your parasite cleanse. Sustain, it's your candida and your bad bacteria cleanse. Metal Flush, it's your heavy metal detox. Cinnabon, it's your binder. You take Parafy and Metal Flush 3 times a day and Sustain 2 times a day. You can take them all together. The kit comes with instructions. Cinnabon is your binder, and you take that at night. We have a nut-free option. We ship worldwide. The Parafy Kit is for ages 3 and up. Use Tina as your 10% discount code. Find it on rogersfood.com.
Have you ever wanted to start a charity or ministry? Launching a nonprofit can be time-consuming, expensive, and overwhelming. If you have a vision and mission, but don't know where to start or how to raise donations, Capstone Legacy Foundation is your solution. Their ministry charity project allows you to receive tax-free donations without the expense and hassle of forming your own 501c3, and in less than 48 hours. This ministry partnership fund is exactly how Counterculture Ministries got its start, and we grew quickly. Capstone Legacy Foundation handles all your legal and accounting paperwork, allowing you time to develop the ministry and message God gave you. Call Capstone today at 610-688-8890 or check out capstonelegacy.org for more information. And tell them Tina sent you. Partner with Capstone Legacy Foundation to transform our culture for Christ and get your nonprofit started today.
If you as a parent are looking for encouragement and advice from other parents who are working hard to teach a biblical worldview to their kids, you have to check out the Homeschooling Today magazine. Just go to homeschoolingtoday.com. Join the growing movement of parents who are setting aside comparisons, taking control of their children's education, choosing courage over fear, and letting God lead, and homeschooling boldly. Homeschooling Today is a quarterly magazine created by real people with a passion for honesty and encouragement. You won't find articles telling you everything you're not doing. Instead, you'll find homeschooling parents who have walked where you are or currently on the path and want to help you succeed. Just go to homeschoolingtoday.com and get 10% off your first year subscription using code TINA at checkout. Once again, code word TINA at checkout for 10% off your first year subscription of the Homeschooling Today magazine. Can you share any areas that you feel you might have failed or messed up as a parent that you could help us not repeat?
Yeah, I mean, for me, there were multiple times where I have really high expectations for people. I mean, I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, and always had people working for me and things like that, and so I have high expectations of people, and I probably had too high of expectations at times for my kids, particularly my son. And if they didn't meet those expectations, I would let, the most important thing that Jesus and Paul says is love, and, love is patient, love is kind. keeps no record of wrongs and all the different things in 1 Corinthians 13 and so on. And so I would not maintain my composure as a parent nearly like I should at times, particularly because I was a coach and I coached my son a lot as well, all the way through high school. So that was a battle. And luckily I had who I think is the greatest wife ever in the history of the world, my wife, by the grace of God, and she would temper that for me. So, and then on other times, she would be too soft, and she would count on me to kind of, be more the leader in certain situations where she knew that we probably needed to be tougher than she wanted to be.
That's so good. And I, once again, being Ron Real this year, like God asked me to, I can be tough on my kids more than soft. And I don't want to say soft, but the way you address what you address and how you say it is critical. My husband has been making me aware of that. And, my strength finder test when I read that book was command, like I'm a drill sergeant. And so sometimes I can come out with how I say what I say. So I'm absolutely working on that in the new year, because I don't want to have my kids not listen to me or fight back, struggle back, not follow through because of how I'm saying it. So that's what I'm personally working on, because sometimes I can get impatient and not love them. And then I'm thinking, how would I want people to talk to me if they want me to change certain things? It's not the way I'm talking to my kids 24/7. So
Right.
Not that I do that all the time, but there are times the Holy Spirit's like, all right, go back in there, talk to Jake again, say it a different way, and I'll have to apologize and redo it.
Right.
It's just wild. It's literally changing and remembering how my dad sometimes talked to me over the years and redoing it, because sometimes I saw that from him and I would repeat it because that's what I had. Doesn't mean it was done correctly. And even in his generation, from when he was a kid, it's stuff you need to sever and redo. This is a wild question that I need to ask, because a lot of times, I don't know what it is with our culture today. Maybe it's the busyness, COVID. We forgot how we lived lives 3 years ago. But I find myself in the situation of, I want to spend quality time with my kids, but what do we do? I don't want to just pop a movie on like, I did last week, or just walk the dog and talk to my kids. I want new, different ways to start spending quality time with my 4 kids. What are some ideas that you could give us on what parents today can do with their kids to spend quality time?
Overall, I think that's a great question. Overall, you have to develop a relationship where your kids want to spend time with you. And that's, you're a parent first, but you also have to have a little bit of a friendship aspect, not at the expense of being a parent by any means. And you have to have margins in your schedule. And the second chapter in the book is on simple life. And part of that simple life is establishing margins where you have enough time to sit down, or you have enough time to go play putt-putt golf, or you have enough time. It depends on who the kid is. My daughter, no matter how hard I tried, didn't give me a whole lot of one-on-one time with her. My son did, because I coached him a lot, and so it was different with both of them. But you got to have margins, and you got to have standing dates, I guess, if you will. But I did two things. One, I made sure we always ate dinner together, almost every night of their entire existence at home. Or even if we're going to eat dinner together 3 nights a week or whatever it is. Every Monday night, I took my kids to Piccadilly and watched the magic show. We did that for several years. So figure out things that they'll respond to, and then make sure you have the margins of time in your life where you can be involved with them at that level. You don't want to overdo it though, because they'll be like, please leave. So it's once again a balance of where the Spirit leads you relative to. But one other thing I'll say, and then I'll be quiet. Back to the communication we talked about a little bit earlier. You got to have that relationship before you have that open communication. It can't be a sermon. It needs to be where they love you, you love them, they trust you, and you're able to have that communication.
I love that. We literally have now added in our calendar days and times and events of what we're doing with our kids, because if we don't do that, it's never going to happen. We're going to keep saying, we never spent time with the kids. And then it's like 5 months later and we spent 2 days with them doing something fun. My whole big thing, I know it costs a little bit of money, but we try to do it in the dirt cheap deal, is taking trips with the kids outside of the country at least once a year, if not twice, or just away from our environment here at the house. It does so much for us as a family. We're able to regroup. The kids are hanging out with each other again. If there's two siblings squabbling for a number of weeks, all of a sudden we'll say, okay, this adventure, you two kids are sitting next to each other. You two kids are going to do that zip line over there together. You're going to help her walk on that trail, and do that little excursion. And all of a sudden you see them laughing and having fun, and they come back completely bonded as siblings. And we have no distractions, no cell phone, no work. For the most part, maybe a little bit at night when the kids are in bed, if we have to catch up on some emails or something. And we just come back more as a close-knit family every single time we take off on a trip. And it also shows us the areas we have to discipline better on, because we're seeing it, because we're not distracted by other stuff going on in our normal daily routines back at the house. All right. I have a curveball question for you. We're going to go to commercial break, come back with that curveball, and then we're going to talk about your fantastic website with your resources and your killer book we have to have in our hands immediately right after this.
We're a well-funded Christian entertainment company that's making world-class games for children. And what we're doing is unique because we're building top-notch gaming content that competes with the top of the stuff on the App Store, but that contains God's truth. Whether it's games that are biblical or games that come out of a new world we've created called the Rimverse. I was looking out at the world and I got bothered by a few things. Anxiety, suicide, and depression rates are all-time highs for children, which exactly parallels the rise of social media on smartphones. I noticed that for the first time in American history, less than half of Americans go to church. While over 60% of people in this country over 40 believe in God, that for children, well, it's only 32%. As a parent, and I'm a parent, and there's a lot of parents out there that we hear this from that want the true play solution, there's nowhere they can take their kids to deliver them high quality entertainment, something that they're actually going to enjoy and use, but that also contains God's truth, that contains the values that they hold dear.
Head over to trueplaygames.com to learn more.
The Jace case is a pack of 5 antibiotics. We put these antibiotics together very purposefully. They were curated in a way that covers the most common as well as the most deadly bacterial infections that you might encounter. In addition, it includes a guidebook to the safe use of the medications that is written in a way that's accessible for most people to be able to look up what their symptoms are and what the proper medication is to take. The idea behind the Jace case is to allow everyone to be better prepared medically, to be empowered to care for themselves.
Since the pandemic began, our healthcare industry has had to transform. From receiving medication to physician visits, everything changed. Jace Medical is dedicated to providing proper access to medications before you need them. This protects against issues during travel or disruptions with supply chains, natural disasters, and other emergency situations that have proven to overwhelm our healthcare system. Secure your own supply of medication with ease and peace of mind.
Use code TINA for a discount at jacemedical.com.
There are so many parents that want to have dinner with their kids every single night. We have done it for the most part, 95% of raising our kids, because I think it's so critical. And I told my husband years ago, my friends had kids about a decade before I did, for the most part, back in Wisconsin. I said, I do not want to become a taxi cab driver type mom where it's constantly bouncing kids around all over the place and not dinner at the table where conversations can be had. So here's my question for you. Sports today are crazy. If you want to have your kids in sports, it's 5 practices a week, right after school or at 5 o'clock. Dinner time axed. And my kids want to play sports, but I have a hard time between giving up our quality time around the dinner table for the sake of a 2-hour sports deal, even for a middle school student today. What's your thoughts on sports, kids, and the dinner getting axed?
I'm a big sports, I coached for years and years, even at the high school level. I'm a big believer in sports. I'm not a big believer in sports coming at the expense of family time. And it's a balance, just like everything in life, Tina. It's a balance where, I think saying no sports so we can have dinner is the wrong answer. But if you never see each other because you're playing on 3 different team sports, that's not the answer either. So you just have to find the middle ground. But I'm a big sports guy.
And that's what's so tough. It's like when I was a middle school student, you had baseball practice 1 time a week and 1 game on a Saturday. Now it's every day of the week for 2 or 3 hours. So I always wonder too, is that Satan's tactic to try to divide the family. It's so tough. You, Steve, fantastic book, Salt, Light, and Kids, Parenting Well in Today's Culture. Amen to that, buddy. Thank you for being obedient and writing that beast. Tell us, we can get it on Amazon. 5-star review. Oh my word. Everybody get it now. Salt, Light, and Kids, people. Steve Hines, get it. We know what's going to be in it because you talked about it for the last 2 episodes. It's fantastic. And also your website. Tell us what's in your book and what we can get at your website. Can we bring you in to speak? Can we donate to your cause? Fill us in at saltlightandkids.com, everyone. Saltlightandkids.com.
I don't take any donations or anything like that. I'm just kind of, following whatever the Lord has in mind. Phil, I would love for people to buy the book just to hear the message.
Thank you for jumping on board with us in this new year. We love you guys. Thank you so much for praying. Watch all 4 episodes and share these episodes with the masses. Let's help save our kids and draw them closer to the Lord. Steve, you rock. Glad to know you. Let's get in touch since you're like 5 miles away, buddy. Keep at it.